In recent months, sweeping reforms initiated by Elon Musk have set off a cascade of events across the American landscape. His bold restructuring moves, executed with rapid determination, have coincided with a series of protests and violent incidents that now affect both the company he leads and the broader political environment. The unrest began with isolated acts of vandalism targeting charging stations and has escalated into widespread demonstrations. Reports indicate that Tesla service centers have been deliberately set on fire and even subjected to shootings. These actions have not been limited to property damage alone. Some Tesla owners, facing intimidation, have switched their allegiance to other vehicle brands, with accounts of consumers opting for Audi, Honda, and, speculatively, other alternatives in the near future. This evolving situation has transformed Tesla from a symbol of innovative progress in the electric vehicle sector into a lightning rod for public discontent. The company's identity has shifted from a beacon of technological advancement to a target of controversy. With a palpable surge of hostility directed not only at the brand but also at Musk himself, many now question Tesla's viability amid escalating opposition. Alongside these developments, the company's stock price has seen significant declines, with market analysts noting that Tesla's valuation has been pressured to levels that, in some instances, exceed 100 times its operating metrics. These financial pressures add another layer of complexity to a scenario already fraught with political and social tensions. A closer examination of the unfolding events reveals that the acts of violence and vandalism targeting Tesla have acquired a broader political dimension. High-profile political figures have weighed in on the situation. President Donald Trump has characterized these destructive acts as domestic terrorism, suggesting that those involved could face severe legal repercussions, including the possibility of lengthy prison terms up to 20 years in some cases. Such statements underscore a perspective that these actions are not merely isolated criminal incidents but part of a coordinated assault on both a major corporate entity and, by extension, the prevailing social order. The turmoil has also taken a toll on Musk's personal security. Reports indicate that he has been the target of numerous death threats, which led to an upgrade in his security measures. His protection now appears to parallel that of high-ranking political figures, highlighting the seriousness with which these threats are treated. In a recent interview on a major news network, Musk appeared visibly affected by the pressure, his emotions barely contained as he addressed the cameras. This rare display of vulnerability offers a glimpse into the immense personal toll the ongoing crisis has taken on the company's chief executive. Beyond the immediate incidents of violence and vandalism, the current climate has brought into sharp focus the intricate relationships between corporate reform, political ideology, and public sentiment. Musk's foray into areas traditionally reserved for political debate has intensified scrutiny of his business practices and served to polarize public opinion. His ambitious drive to implement what he sees as necessary changes has resonated with a segment of the population favoring radical disruption. On the other hand, many of his earlier supporters, once captivated by his visionary outlook, now find themselves at odds with the increasingly uncompromising and ideologically charged rhetoric emerging from his public statements. This shift in public opinion is perhaps most evident in the protests led by disaffected federal employees. Since February, a significant number of former and current federal workers have staged demonstrations outside various federal agencies in Washington, D.C., and other cities. More than 30 federal unions, representing employees from a broad spectrum of government departments, have initiated collective legal actions against what they perceive as a direct assault on the stability of their employment and the integrity of governmental operations. Even as layoffs have surged, these employees have taken to the streets to protest, voicing their frustrations in demonstrations that have drawn attention to issues ranging from disrupted weather forecasting services to the broader economic fallout from these unprecedented events. The repercussions of these protests have extended far beyond the immediate circle of federal employees. The fallout has rippled through sectors dependent on stable government operations, including critical infrastructure and essential public services. For example, the National Weather Service has encountered operational difficulties that have, in turn, affected airline schedules and contributed to economic disruptions that are difficult to quantify. The potential costs of such disruptions are not merely theoretical, they point to a growing instability in systems that have long underpinned daily life in the United States. As the domestic scene becomes increasingly volatile, international attention has turned to the broader implications of these events. Tesla, a brand that once enjoyed widespread admiration in markets such as Northern Europe, now faces a dramatic decline in consumer confidence. In countries known for their environmental consciousness and commitment to sustainable energy such as Sweden, Norway, Denmark, and France, sales figures for Tesla vehicles have plummeted. In France, for example, sales have dropped by as much as 45% compared to the previous year. Similarly, in Norway and Denmark, the declines are estimated at around 48%, while in Sweden, sales have fallen by approximately 42%. This stark reversal is significant, given that Tesla was once synonymous with the ideals of clean energy and technological progress in these regions. The damage to Tesla's reputation is not solely an economic issue, it is also a matter of international public relations. High-ranking officials in Europe have publicly criticized Musk's approach, with one notable incident involving Poland's foreign minister. When the minister raised concerns about the quality of services provided by one of Musk's companies, an annual payment of around $50 million, the response was terse and dismissive. This exchange, unfolding on social media, was marked by sharp language and a rapid escalation, underscoring the intensity of the international backlash. Musk's response, described by some commentators as unprofessional, reflects the increasingly contentious nature of his interactions with both domestic and international figures. At the heart of this multifaceted crisis lies a fundamental question about the role of corporate leaders in the political arena. Musk's involvement in political debates and public interventions in matters traditionally handled by government institutions have blurred the lines between business and statecraft. His actions have sparked a debate over the proper limits of executive authority in a democratic society. While some argue that his interventions are a necessary response to governmental inefficiencies and opacity, others contend that such actions risk undermining the established processes of democratic governance. In this context, the debate is not merely about one individual's conduct but about the broader implications for the separation of powers and the accountability of those in positions of influence. Adding to the complexity of this situation is the controversy surrounding immigration and employment practices within Musk's companies. Critics have raised concerns that the aggressive recruitment policies adopted under his leadership favor foreign talent over American engineers, a move that many view as discriminatory toward the domestic workforce. Proposals to raise the minimum salary threshold for work visas, particularly for specialized technical roles, have been put forward to ensure that only truly exceptional candidates are recruited. Such measures, however, have been met with resistance by those who argue they unfairly disadvantage highly qualified professionals from abroad. This debate over visa policy has become a flashpoint, reflecting deeper tensions about national identity, economic competitiveness, and the future of the American workforce in an increasingly globalized economy. The controversies extend further into the realm of political alliances and the internal dynamics of major political parties. Some observers note that Musk's actions have not only alienated key segments of his former support base, but have also provoked a realignment of political loyalties. Within the Trump administration and among its broader supporters, an emerging rift is becoming apparent. Certain factions, once aligned with Musk in the fight against government overreach, now see his actions as dangerously destabilizing. The fallout from this realignment is already being felt on multiple fronts, with some political operatives suggesting that the current crisis could have long-term implications for the balance of power within the American political system. In this context, the role of the media has been both influential and controversial. Traditional news outlets, along with social media platforms, have played a significant role in shaping public perception of the crisis. Reports and analyses vary in objectivity, but the overall narrative tends to amplify the dramatic elements of the story. Television interviews, online commentaries, and social media exchanges all contribute to an atmosphere where polarizing viewpoints are frequently exchanged. This intense media coverage, while keeping the public informed, has also contributed to an environment of heightened tension and uncertainty. The interplay between media narratives and political rhetoric has, in many ways, deepened the divisions now evident across various segments of society. It is important to consider the legal and constitutional dimensions emerging from this situation. Musk's increasing involvement in what many perceive as a quasi-governmental role raises significant questions. Although he holds considerable influence within his own companies, his participation in policy discussions and governmental meetings blurs the boundaries of formal authority. Critics argue that by intervening in matters of public policy, Musk is overstepping his role as a corporate executive. This has prompted discussions about the need for clearer guidelines regarding the interactions between private enterprise and public administration. Legal experts caution that without such guidelines, the actions taken by Musk and his associates could set dangerous precedents, undermining the principles of accountability and transparency in government. The debate over Musk's authority is further complicated by shifting alliances within the current political framework. Some members of the establishment have begun distancing themselves from his more extreme positions, while others remain uncertain about where to draw the line between legitimate reform and reckless overreach. This internal tension is manifesting in policy debates and legislative proposals seeking to define the proper scope of executive power in a democratic society. These discussions, often highly technical, carry significant implications for the future of governance in the United States. The outcome of these debates may well determine whether the current crisis leads to lasting institutional changes or is merely a temporary disruption in an already volatile political landscape. Another aspect of this ongoing saga is the reaction from various interest groups indirectly affected by the events. For many Americans, particularly those working within government agencies or industries reliant on stable regulatory frameworks, the impact of the protests and policy shifts has been deeply unsettling. The widespread discontent among federal employees, many of whom are now engaging in public protests and legal action, speaks to a broader sense of disillusionment with the current state of affairs. For these individuals, the crisis is not merely about corporate performance or political posturing, it is about the security of their livelihoods and the future of the institutions on which they depend. At the same time, the international community is closely monitoring these developments, recognizing the far-reaching implications beyond the borders of the United States. Tesla, as a global brand, has long been associated with cutting-edge technology and sustainable energy. The recent downturn in its performance, especially in key European markets, raises concerns about the long-term viability of its business model. European consumers, who once viewed Tesla as a reliable partner in the pursuit of green technology, are now reconsidering their choices in light of the company's deteriorating reputation. This shift in consumer sentiment is significant, as it suggests the current crisis could have lasting effects on the global automotive industry and the broader movement towards sustainable energy. The international dimension of the crisis is underscored by responses from political leaders across Europe. Incidents such as the public exchange with Poland's foreign minister have highlighted the potential for diplomatic tensions arising from corporate actions. The minister's critique of the service quality provided by one of Musk's companies, with an annual payment of about $50 million, was met with a terse and dismissive response. Many interpreted this exchange as emblematic of a broader disregard for diplomatic decorum. Such interactions risk straining relationships between nations, particularly if seen as indicative of a trend toward unilateral decision-making and a breakdown of traditional communication channels. Amid these developments, it is essential to acknowledge that the situation remains fluid. While immediate incidents of violence and protest have captured public attention, the longer-term consequences are still unfolding. For Tesla, the dual challenges of waning consumer confidence and mounting political opposition present a formidable test. The company must navigate a treacherous landscape in which every decision is scrutinized not only for its commercial impact but also for its political and social ramifications. In such an environment, even a single misstep could have far-reaching consequences, affecting everything from stock valuations to the company's ability to secure international markets. Moreover, the crisis has opened new avenues for political mobilization. As various groups from federal employees to political activists organize to express their dissent, the likelihood of sustained, large-scale protests increases. These movements have the potential to reshape the political discourse in the United States, influencing legislative agendas and electoral outcomes. The convergence of corporate reform, political controversy, and social unrest represents a complex and interwoven challenge that defies simple explanations. It reflects deeper structural changes within society, a shift in the balance of power between established institutions and emerging forces of change. In conclusion, the series of events set in motion by Musk's sweeping reforms, the violent protests, and the multifaceted political backlash represents a significant moment in contemporary American history. The crisis marked by declining consumer confidence, economic disruptions, and contentious legal debates reflects broader societal shifts that challenge traditional models of corporate governance and democratic accountability. The interplay between innovation, political influence, and public sentiment will remain a critical factor in shaping the future. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel.